Well, hello, soccer fans. Randy McKee here with Soccer 605, and we hope that you're following us along on all the coverage that we have marching up to the state soccer tournament on October 11th. Yesterday, we posted up a couple stories on, pairings and what might be happening. Right now, we have a lot of teams fighting for spots, and we're kind of getting down to pairings announcements time, and we had a couple questions, and I thought there's one person in the state that I would ask if I had a question on how pairings go, and that's our good friend John Krogstrand, the Assistant Executive Director at the High School Activities Association. John, and I got to tell you, thank you for being so accessible to us every time we ask. It's really been such a pleasure working with you.
Hey, you bet. Not a problem. Always a pleasure to be on, and just like you said, getting the information out there straight from the horse's mouth and help everybody understand exactly where we're at and where we're going.
Well, to let all the fans know, this morning I called John to ask him if he would do a hangout, and I dialed the high school activities number, and he was the guy who answered the phone, and apparently they had all the administrative staff in a meeting, so some of the assistant execs were answering the phone. And John, you have a pretty nice receptionist demeanor, right? You might have a career at that if you really want one.
I got a future yet. Just watch out.
Well, as I mentioned at the opening of the show, we've got a lot of teams right now fighting for a position. I think on the girls' side we have probably six teams, 7 teams fighting for 5 positions. I think the top 3 are pretty settled. On the boys' side, we've got a lot of teams fighting for those. What looks to me like we have 4 who are going to make it and 4 who don't. Do you typically see that in the other sports like football, that you have this same sort of playoff system in?
I think it's a little different just because soccer's maybe about, with football, the only 2 that not everybody makes the playoffs. Right now in basketball and volleyball, everybody makes it into a district, everybody makes it into a region, so everybody kind of knows they have that shot going in. So, there's plus sides and downsides to both, but obviously it brings a lot more meaning to the regular season, a lot more meaning to these games down the stretch, and you can argue one way or the other as far as how that goes, but yeah, definitely when we get to these situations of making the playoffs as well as the seeding and knowing that not just maybe how you're going to stack up to in those first rounds, but you're right, all the way through, everybody's got something to fight for. The 1 and 2 seeds fighting for a bye in Class A or fighting for a better matchup, or that home semifinal game in the AA. The 3-4 seeds again fighting against 5 and 6 to hold off for that first game at home, and all those things that fall into place all the way down to 6 or 8, depending on the class, of just trying to get in and have that shot. So it really does bring a lot of importance to the regular season, a lot of excitement and anticipation about these last few games coming up, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out here over the next 12, 13 days or so.
When I coach players, one of the things that I always tried to really have them understand is how important games are. If you're in a scenario where you need to win games to advance, every game is important, but beyond that, every time the other team has the ball, your defending is important, and every time you have the ball, taking care of the ball is important. And I think, as if we can help players understand that, and really this system does a lot to do that. I mean, I've talked with a lot of coaches this season who said, oh man, those first 2 early games, we weren't quite ready, and that's going to hurt us. And, so it does, I think, help us if we approach it in that manner, help teach the players, which is, a lot what we have to be doing, that, that doing things right all the time is important.
Well, and the other side of it, too, is that every little contribution makes a difference. You talk about that game in the middle of the season or early in the season where maybe 16, 17, 18 deep on the bench or in the game, and make that key, that key deflection or that key pass, or even take that shot and make a goal to win a game. I mean, those things are so clutch, and really the opportunity for kids to contribute throughout the season to have an impact really heightens that level of the team championship, but also too with any seeding system is it gives us an opportunity to look at the whole body of work. And we're not just going to talk about how you've done against a certain select group of teams. We're not going to look at how you've done just in a couple of games, but really your entire season and the quality of teams that you've played and how you've done against those teams. You know, this system really kind of rewards and really takes a good look at. And you're right. I think hopefully it puts a lot of meaning into that regular season and really gets the kids excited all the way through it. And exactly right too. Just like you said, yeah, we might you might remember those last couple of games, you know, or maybe you have a 6-4 team against a 5-5 team or something like that down the stretch. That's really important. But hey, that first game out when you were 0-0 and they were 0-0 was just as important as it comes out and shakes you out in the playoff system.
Yeah, absolutely, and the coaches I think realize that more this year than anything else. And really, I think everything I've seen and everything I've heard has been very positive. Some of the old soccer purists, though, who are used to having that 3-day tournament with 8 teams in a 3-day tournament, are still kind of complaining because that's just what they're used to. But I think it's very easily explained to have the top 2 teams come in fresh from a week of rest and training, ready to give everything they've got in that final game, and I think it makes more sense for the quality of the soccer and also for the safety of the players.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think the other aspect maybe that gets overlooked is now you have a state semifinal game at home, and you have an opportunity to get as many of your student body out there, and even in a quarterfinal situation. And you talk about the level of excitement that you see when it's in a state football, because football is the only one that we do that, where the game to go to the championship is at home, and how that level of excitement and awareness and all those things that go into it. And there's absolutely some value to having 8 teams at a state final like has been done in the club tournament in the past. You know, we took 4 to the finals the last 2 years, and there was definitely value in those tournaments as well, don't get me wrong. But I think now, gosh, if I'm in my senior year and I have a chance to play for the game to go to the state championship in front of my student body, in front of my friends and family who maybe aren't going to be able or might not otherwise make that trip for a 3-day tournament, I can do that at home in front of everybody. Wow, what an awesome opportunity. I think that's something that will be really unique, and in the right situation, in the right circumstances, those Saturday games come October 4th are going to be something fantastic. And in future years and in this year, if Mitchell's in one of those situations here for the next 2 years, and man, we're going to do this, and the buildup that might bring to our state finals, or in a future site situation as well. I mean, there's a lot of really awesome opportunity for our kids to showcase their talents in front of their friends and families at home that maybe otherwise wasn't there. And that's another big piece to go along with the safety and the timing of things, and really getting the best level of soccer on the field when it matters the most. That all kind of go hand in hand as we look at the system that we're using this year.
And one last thing before we move on to talking about seedings. I think it makes it easier for us as Soccer 605, whose sole purpose is to promote the good of soccer. I think it makes it easier for us when it's on one day, just a Saturday, to persuade people to come. Even if your team's not in there, why not come and enjoy some good soccer and enjoy the soccer people? I'm kind of an old school guy, been around for a long time, but I remember back when the state, where there were just state A and state B in basketball, and the state B basketball tournament, which was always in Sioux Falls back then because there was no Rapid City Civic Center. Every year it was in Sioux Falls. That was the biggest event in the state. And I obviously we aren't going to reach that in soccer, but I don't see any reason why somebody who comes from a town that hasn't made it won't come and watch some soccer, because it's going to be the best soccer available.
Yeah, and one thing I'll go back to there with what you said, and I'm not saying that we're going to be there tomorrow or in 2 years or in 10 years, but the popularity and growth of soccer, when it's done right and it's done to really focus on the kids and those kinds of things. The State A finals in soccer, the largest class in Nebraska, State A soccer finals outdrew the state football finals last year. Had a fantastic crowd at Morrison Stadium in Creighton. Had over 10,000 people there for a final, And that's, you know, one of those mechanisms again where if it's done right in a fantastic top level facility like obviously, you know, Creighton has, that, you know, maybe we don't have in South Dakota yet, but maybe someday we get to. But they've kind of had that road to Morris, you know, getting to the stadium, getting to Creighton. That's all you hear from the kids is getting to Omaha. We want to get to Omaha this year, and how that's kind of developed. And here again, now it's, you know, we don't have that one facility per se, but still getting to the finals, and how you can kind of crescendo that and playing in front of some home fans and things in the games to get there. You know, that's really a unique opportunity, an awesome opportunity, and you know, quite honestly, I'm just lucky to be part of it.
Well, I'll tell you, we have been just so pleased at how everything has worked, and you know, I remember 2 years ago when we came up to Aberdeen and experienced our first high school activities sanctioned state soccer tournament there in Aberdeen. It was just absolutely amazing. I'll let this mower get past. That right there is one of the perils of live narrowcasting, and one of the nice things about being able to sit down and work. So anyway, to you know, just kind of flesh that out, I think we're going to have, you know, we've got half a dozen really good stadiums in South Dakota to play these finals at. So, you know, I really hope we get to that point where it's desirable to get there. Not, I mean, obviously, but for desirable for fans to come watch the game. So, John, let's get in and talk a little bit about the pairings and the seedings. So let's start with A, and maybe you can tell us how the A division is going to work.
Sure. You know, and really we're following a lot of the blueprint that has been in place the last couple of years. So folks that have been around for the first 2 years of the sanctioned side, a lot of it's really going to look the same. What is different, I suppose, is playing those preliminary games out. What we'll do is on the night of the 29th, is the last regular season, or excuse me, that last Saturday there of September, we'll take the final scores of everything, update those PowerPoints on Saturday night, and flesh them out. And in the Class A ranks, 6 teams will make it. Number 1 and number 2 seeds obviously are fighting for that first night off, so they would not play on that opening Tuesday of postseason sub-state play, if you will. 3 seed and the 4 seed will host the 5 and the 6, just in a typical bracket. The winners will advance. We won't reseed anything, so potentially if you have the number 5 team, you know, win a game, they're not going to, you know, throw the bracket off or anything like that. We'll just move them forward to play that one and things like that. And then obviously the semifinals coming up that next Saturday, October the 4th, and then the finals on the 11th in Mitchell. So again, 6 teams getting in. Top 2 seeds are fighting for that home first round bye. Then the 3 and 4 seeds will host games. That initial Tuesday coming out, be Tuesday the 30th, will be those first round home games. And then the winners obviously advance and will go on the road to the top 2 seeds on Saturday the 4th.
And so even though we're kind of seeing schedules like in the ESD and Metro Conference, we aren't gonna be looking at any conference type seedings in Double A. It's just going to be a straight seeded travel to the team we're supposed to play.
Yeah, and really that's going to kind of match, again, a little bit more of what we've done in football than anything else, I guess, as far as from the activity side. We're just going to take that bracket and maybe really it's going to match a lot of that 1 through 8, like it was 3 years ago perhaps in the club soccer side, and just play it out, but with those first 2 rounds being at home site. So you're fighting hard, tooth and nail, again, those 1s and 2s wanting to be able to be at home until they go to a state final game. 3s and 4s obviously get their first round game at home, and then 5 through 8 fighting for matchups, and again obviously trying to get into that top 4 echelon as well. But we'll just straight bracket them, no reseeding after a first round or anything. You know, that opening game, 1-8, so on and so forth, will be on that Tuesday the 30th. The semifinals on the 4th, and then the finals again on the afternoon or the evening session, if you will, the 11th in Mitchell.
Well, we're looking at these PowerPoints, and I'll tell you, you know, one thing that really gets me, and it has to be something that concerns the people out at Spearfish on the boys' side. You know, right now I think Spearfish have a 7-1-1 record, and they're sitting just above the red line. And they have, I think they finish off with Rapid City Stevens. That's their only AA competition, and a couple more A games. And they've played, I think, probably more A teams than AA teams, so they've got a great record. But that's really looking like it could foul them up if a couple of these East River teams have 3, maybe even 4 AA games left that get those extra points and advance based on that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing there is with this point system, we use it in volleyball, we're using it in basketball, we're talking about implementing it in football, so we're not too far away from using some derivative of it. It is, what was the strength of the competition you played? The most important fact of this is, did you win the games against the better opponents, and what was your schedule made up of? If you're 7-1, I think we all can think of circumstances that we've seen in the past, or continue to see, no matter what sport or activity we're talking about, where you might have a 7-0 team that's played 7 world beaters, and you might have an 0-7 team that's same world beaters, and obviously there's a difference. But now that 7-0 loaded up on a bunch of 0-7s, and the 0-7 played a bunch of 7-0s. There's always that kind of give and take a little bit. So you're right. We knew there were going to be some challenges and some things out there, and I don't want to dismiss anybody just because of their record or anything. But really, that's what this PowerPoint system does. Is it really gives a hard look at the quality of teams that you've played, as well as how you've done against them, and not just strictly a win-loss thing, but really, how did you get those 7 wins, and what kind of competition were they against, whether it's 7 wins, 10 wins, 2 wins, whatever. And really trying to balance that out, and more specifically, a team that's record takes a hit, if they did that against top-level competition, aren't necessarily penalized for playing that top-level competition, but at the same time, you're not just overly rewarded for getting wins if you were maybe scheduling against some teams that just didn't have the wins and maybe didn't have the talent that some others did.
Well, I know one of the big issues this year was when the floodgates opened last spring and all these schools sanctioned. I mean, I think you guys even set off your drop dead date for getting schedules because of all the soccer scheduling that had to be done. So, I think over time, over the next few years, you're going to be getting a lot of this stuff straightened out, because I know starting next year, yourself are going to be involved pretty heavily in making sure that the teams are traveling across the state to play each other, and trying to play more in their own divisions.
Yeah, and it'll be a lot of conversation really amongst the ADs at the different schools. You have the Eastern South Dakota Conference that once they knew they were going to have their full conference, or a majority of their conference schools part of sanctioned soccer, that their long-standing tradition, and one that they're very proud of, and those communities are very proud of, is to have that conference schedule and to play each of their teams once. And to do that, some of those games were in Aberdeen playing a Groton right there, a Huron playing a James Valley that was right there, a Mitchell playing Mitchell Christian or a Freeman. Some of those things maybe had to go away to honor that tradition, if you will. And absolutely, you're right on that. It's something we're going to have to keep our eyes on to make sure that everybody gets a full schedule to what they like. I know there's discussion out there about both the playoff format. There's discussion about numbers of games and all kinds of things to help kind of craft that those next 2 steps. But again, it'll be our role from our office to look out for all of our 30-some-odd soccer programs to ensure that they're able to have a successful season and have a go at it, and not be behind the 8 ball from day one. And that's kind of where our role will be. But again, a lot of it, now that we have time and you can schedule, well, hey, I'll come to your place in 15 if you come to mine in 2016, and those kinds of normal rotations that happen in high school scheduling, a lot of that will kind of take over, and really starting next year, that flow will be a lot more smooth and a lot more accustomed to any other activity or anything else that we do.
Had to mute because the mower was going by again. Well, and having the pros working on it, I think they're gonna sit down after the season. They're gonna figure out what worked best and the things that didn't work, and it's not going to be an overnight fix on any of this stuff. But I know we'll be seeing progress already by next year, and we're seeing progress this year just in the whole way things are being run. So it really is it's a great thing to watch. At least at this point, I'd have to call the first year of statewide sanctioning a very, very big success.
Well, that's great to hear, and obviously all that credit goes back to the schools and the ADs and what those guys are putting in, because you have, again, 30-some ADs that so many of them, just soccer was kind of a foreign concept, and to be able to jump in, to find that group, to find those committees, to find those volunteers and the individuals that were willing to help out, and really at the end of the day doing what's best for our kids, to giving them that full school-sponsored status, if you will, to treat them like any other varsity athlete. That was the goal of so many when soccer and high school soccer started out in South Dakota, and now we're seeing kind of how that transition has come and how we're here, and now the athletic directors are just fully excited about it, and you're absolutely right. Everybody now is looking at, okay, we've kind of got through this. It's been a quick, fast, crazy kind of 6 months since a lot of teams came in, and now what can we do to improve for next year? And that's really, hopefully, the direction that we'll continue to go, is looking at with our schools and our coaches, what can we do better in the sport to make it better for the kids, the communities, and everybody's opportunity that's involved.
Well, John, we're going to be involved, at least from an information gathering standpoint, as the advisory committees and the ADs start talking about some of the things they want to do, and we'll sure be reporting those out. Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and get back to your job there at the High School Youth Association. Once again, John, though, I really want to thank you for being so accessible to us and giving us the word on how this thing is going to come down right from the guy who watches over it.
There you go. Absolutely no problem, and I'm sure we'll see you and many that are watching out here at the matches here in the next few weeks as we come down and the countdown to Mitchell begins.
Look forward to it. Well, thanks again, John, and if we don't see you before October 11th, we'll be very anxious to sit down with you then, and please pass on our best regards to Carney and the rest of the crew there at High School Activities Association.
Sounds great. Thanks, Randy.